Call the studio at 572-9710 or WhatsApp 287-0971 or Rev Up. Office numbers are 572-0383 and 572-0215. Rev Up St. Lucia, the alpha of radio.
Join the United Workers' Party this and every Thursday on Rev Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for an educational and informative program, Meet the Opposition. Participate in exciting discussions from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Be in the know every Thursday on Rev Up St. Lucia 97.1 from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
It's now time for Meet the Opposition, today hosted by Lenard Spider Montoute. So, Mr. Montoute, nice to see you again. Good morning.
Good morning, Andre. Late once again. And let me first start by apologizing. You know, I try not to make excuses, but of course the traffic is so hard on the road there, and, I had a late night being at the bar last night, so all of those contributed. But I'm happy that I'm here. I am sorry that we are starting a little late this morning, but I'm hoping that we're going to make up for it. So I want to welcome all our viewers and listeners who are listening to Rev Up this morning, and those of you who are following us on live stream, whether you're in the diaspora or anywhere in St. Lucia or around the region. Welcome to Meet the Opposition, and I'm hoping this morning we can have a very incisive and scintillating program for you. And of course, as always, we will have a segment where you will have your say, and we will allow you to call in to contribute. And I know that Nancy, who is the normal host, is listening this morning. Nancy, if you are listening, we're going to start off with a clip now. I'm not trying to, mimic what I do on my talk show, like it is to start your talk show that way, Nancy. But, sometimes there are issues that has to be cleared, and in the past the UWP was guilty of allowing blatant lies to be told, and no response came in, and then they repeat it often enough and people began believing it. And even now that we have to come back and try to dispel it, it is much harder to do as opposed to dealing with it immediately. And so, Nancy, you would know what I'm talking about. If you're listening, you brought it to my attention. There is this clip that I saw where the St. Lucia Labour Party had a town hall meeting, Andre, and at that town hall meeting, the Prime Minister said that, called us liars, and that's very, very interesting, coming from Honorable Philip J. Pierre calling someone a liar. I mean, I have a segment on my program called SLP, Secret Lies and Propaganda, and I've shown so many instances of the Prime Minister blatantly telling lies to St. Lucians, but he has the gall, the audacity to call others liar. And so, he talked about that with regard to an incident that happened not too long ago. Andre, you in the news, you would know that there's a gentleman who was in an accident and his legs got crushed and they had to be amputated. And he spent some 12 days or so in the hospital and was discharged after treatment. And the very same day that he was discharged, he passed away. And the leader of the opposition made a comment on that, and I think he was highlighting the state of healthcare in this country. He also lamented the fact that you have the gentleman from Montoute North, which is represented by Honorable Jeremiah Norbert, and he was saying that, he felt within himself that Jeremiah Norbert should have taken more of an interest in that situation, given his own history. As you know, he is an amputee, and he was in an accident, similar situation. He was in an accident where he lost a leg and so on, and he got the best treatment to the extent that he was able to recover in a couple of months and come back and contest in the next election that has him as a parliamentarian today. And so, and besides, I think the leader of the opposition was lamenting the fact that Jeremiah Norbert, apart from being a parliamentary representative, is the minister responsible for disabilities. And so he called on him about that and expressed his disappointment. And of course, the health situation, which I'm not going to comment on this morning. I mean, I think every St. Lucian knows how dismal it is. If you do not know, read the letter from the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association, who have first-hand, knowledge and insight as to what goes on. And so they took umbrage to that rather than, you see, that now that's the thing about our government. Rather than, make up for their errors or misdeeds. They try to double down and shift blame and cast aspersion on others. And so they are claiming that Honorable Chasney is a liar because he said that Jeremiah got the best help on the government ensured. Now, guess what? The government he's talking about is the government that was led by him, Alan Chasney. And so they call him a liar and so on. Now, you don't just go around calling people liars. When I think we are forgetting very often in these times with technology, the truth can be brought to light. And so I'm saying that, in fact, the government, which I was a part of, because that matter came to the cabinet, did all in its power, okay? We did not consider parties and political considerations. We did all in our power to assist with getting the gentleman treatment to the extent of assisting in getting him to Martinique. But he denies that any of that was done and so on. But I think Nancy is standing by, and I think she has something to say on that. She was working in the Prime Minister's office and so on. Andre, do you have Nancy's number? Or Nancy, can you call in right now?
Mm-hmm.
If you can call in, we will appreciate that. Though the lines are not open, it is, like Rick would say, it is your show. So can you call in right now so that you can make a contribution, make a comment on the situation?
I'm standing by.
Andre is standing by. And while Andre is waiting, I just want to say that the reality is that the government worked in collaboration with the then leader of the opposition, who is now Prime Minister, Philip J. Pierre, in providing assistance. And I'm not saying so grudgingly to suggest that it should not have been done. I think what was done is what should have been done. But to turn around and the very individual, the now Prime Minister, who was in direct consultation with the then Prime Minister, Honorable Alan Chasney, is calling Alan Chasney a liar on the matter. Now,
Nancy's on the line.
Okay, so Nancy, good morning. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning, Andre.
Hi, morning. How are
Welcome
you?
to your show.
Morning, Spider.
Welcome, Nancy. Welcome to Meet the Opposition.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this burning issue.
How are you, Andre?
I'm very well. Just missing you, that's all.
You see,
Oh,
you're making things worse.
cry.
You're making things worse, Nancy. Already, Andre is longing to have you back, and then you calling into, like the thing the people would say, "Wablese boboa." Yeah.
But good morning, guys. Good morning, St. Lucia. It's a pleasure to be able to call in today. I do have to apologize to the many St. Lucians who have been looking forward to meet the opposition with me. Let me say that contrary to what I saw on social media, which is something that we will be addressing today, I am not vexed with the party. I don't know if you saw that somewhere, Spider. They say that I'm vexed with the party. I'm vexed with everybody. That's why I'm not on the show, etc. I just want to say
the
that
only
I'm
person
out
who
of
is vexed
state.
is Andre because he doesn't have you.
Yes. But Andre, even if I'm not here, I've been following what's been going on. There's a little bit of a feedback. I don't know if it's on my end or on your end.
I think it's on your end because I could hear your voice coming back. So you're listening on some device. No? Are you listening on anything? Because that's what's coming back.
Let me see. I turned it off.
You
So
see?
let's see if that's better.
She's the guilty one.
Yes. So I have been following what's been going on in St. Lucia. And as Spider said, I think it's rather unfortunate and very sad that we have to be, in fact, it's just really unfortunate that the leader of the opposition and the former prime minister had to come out and share conversations that he had with the then leader of the opposition. And you know that sometimes you do those things, Andre, only if you are forced to. And why do I say that? It's because there were so many lies being peddled by the Labour Party leading to the last election and even now. And I can certainly tell you that Alan Chasney, as a former prime minister, has a lot of documentary evidence. But because he is a consummate professional, in many instances he has chosen not to show certain documents to prove that the Labour Party is lying. But in this case, I think in the circumstances of what is transpiring, that the Labour Party is trying to tag this and to deny something that everybody knew or everybody knows. I think it's incumbent on the UWP and also incumbent on Jeremiah Norbert himself and Honorable Philip JP as the Prime Minister to come out and to say, I misspoke or I forgot
Stop
or some
sugarcoating it,
story or
Nancy.
some
Stop saying that I
excuse.
lied, because that's what it is.
Yeah, so I also got some calls and some person said, well, perhaps Jeremiah did not know because when you're sick and you're on the bed, you don't know what's happening, behind the scenes. And I thought I should give maybe St. Lucia a little bit more insight, and you can determine as to whether Jeremiah Norbert knew what transpired or whether he did not. So I'm going to start by saying, being in the office of the Prime Minister, and as Spider said, he was a member of cabinet. That was something that was also discussed because it was an emergency situation. It was an urgent situation. I think it was on the 17th of February. They normally have this motorcade with bikers all around the island, etc. And I think Jeremiah Norbert was part of that. Now, I want St. Lucia to remember that he was a police officer at the time, because it's important to remember that because of where I will get to. And then we got the news. I think Dr. Rigobert recalls that she was all the way up in Rodney Bay when she started getting phone calls, because she was the MP for Mikud North at the time. And she got lots of calls, one after the other, people calling and saying, hey, Jeremiah has been in an accident. And we must also note at the time that Jeremiah was a named candidate for the St. Lucia Labour Party. So he was named already. He was Dr. Gail Rigobert's opponent in the upcoming general election. So it was not a secret or anything like that. Everybody knew. However, Dr. Rigobert, when she got all those calls, I think she was all the way up north, as she said, and she drove all the way down because Jeremiah was taken to St. Jude's. And so for Jeremiah to say that nobody from the UWP was ever there and ever reached out to him is a lie. Because Gail Rigobert left Cascade and drove all the way to Viewport to St. Jude's. When she got to St. Jude's, there was a sea of red supporters all in front of St. Jude's Hospital. She walked through that sea of supporters and went into the room. When she got there, she met Alva Batiste, and Alva said that he was taken to the emergency room. She went to the emergency room, and the family was there, everybody crying. Dr. Rigobert hugged the mother, they talked, etc., and so forth. She went to the doctors, and by the time Dr. Rigobert got to St. Jude's, she had already called Prime Minister Alan Chasney. And everybody in St. Lucia who knows Alan Chasney, you can say what you want about him. But when something like that happened, the first thing he does, he breaks down, he gets really emotional, and he says, what can we do? What can we do? And by the time Gail got to St. Jude's, they had already spoken to Joanna Sultan, who was our resident ambassador in Martinique. They had already spoken to a young lady called Miss Henry, Gilda Henry. She was working at the French embassy. They had already spoken to the hospital in Martinique. All kinds of things had already taken place because we knew, Andre and Spider, that if we did not ensure that we took every single precaution to ensure that we could get medical care for Jeremiah, you know what they would say? And they still said it anyway, and they're saying it today, that UWP didn't do anything for Jeremiah, etc., etc., etc. We knew that very well, and we did not want for anything to happen to this young man, lest it be said that UWP was responsible. Because at the time, if the earth shook a little too much, it was Alan Chasney's fault. If there was an earthquake, it was Alan Chasney's fault. If the waves, the tides came high and the waves came in, it was Alan Chasney's fault. We were very mindful that we had to ensure we provided proper care for this gentleman. When Dr. Rigobert got to St. Jude's, Andre, and he spoke to the mother, the wife was not there. I think the wife was away studying somewhere in Cuba or something like that. But she was away. There was discussion. And I want you to remember as well, this was during the COVID time. The airports were closed. VG Airport was closed. Iwanoa Airport was closed. When the discussions were taking place while Gail was making her way down to St. Jude's about taking him to Martinique, Alan Shastney had already reached out to Darren Snack, who was in charge of SLASPA and the airport, to find out whether we can open the airport because we needed an emergency helicopter to come down Viewfort to pick him up from St. Jude to Viewfort. While these discussions were taking place with the family when Dr. Rigobert got there, then discussions were, do we take him to Matnik via Hiranora or VG? Discussions took place. I think the wife said, well, send him up to Tapio, etc. There was a lot of back and forth. But I remember one thing Dr. Rigobert told us, that while she was there, Jeremiah wanted to pray, or they were doing some prayer. And Alva Baptiste was the one who came and got her because she was there dialoguing with the doctors, trying to make arrangements, and said, they want you in there because they're praying for Jeremiah. She went by his bedside and held his hands and the mother's hand. Y'all don't remember that? Jeremiah don't remember that? Jeremiah's mother don't remember that? The family don't remember that? That girl was there, held his hand. Y'all called her in to come and pray with him. Y'all don't remember that? Andre, this is wickedness at the highest level, you know. And these things hurt. These things hurt. That Dr. Rigobert did everything she could, because she said when she called Alan Shastney, said to her, whatever you need to do, I'm giving you carte blanche. Just do whatever you need to do. That was the response for the Prime Minister at the time. And I'm not even going to go into the WhatsApp messages because everybody has seen them for themselves. That Philip J.P., the one who tell people you're lying, this anger, this hatred. I think everybody in St. Lucia can see for themselves that it is Philip J.P. is the one who's perpetuating those lies, those divisions, that anger and that hatred, making St. Lucians hate each other because of politics, because he wants to remain Prime Minister and to protect the victory. Everybody in St. Lucia can see that, Andre. Okay? So after Dr. Rigobert had discussions with the family and after they prayed for Jeremiah, the wife gave instructions, and I think she said to send him to Tapio, etc., and so forth. And so he was taken to Tapio. He spent a few days in Tapio, and then arrangements were made to send him to Martinique. And so for somebody to say to me, maybe Jeremiah did not know, he knew. His family knew. His mother knew. And he knew. And the Labour Party knew. And Philip J.P. knew. All of them knew. And I am calling my good friend Alva Baptiste because Alva and I are friends. He's a really good friend of us, a family friend. And I know that Alva will call him and say to him, young man, there are certain bridges that you do not cross when you're in politics. And if anybody can do it, I think, Alva, you can do it to get Jeremiah to take back what he said and just apologize and said, I misspoke. I was not aware, or whatever story he wants to give. But they both owe Alan Shastney and Honorable Dr. Gail Rigobert an apology for that lie that they are perpetuating. Alan Shastney did not help, and nobody from UWP was there. Because for someone to have made that sacrifice, knowing that you are her opponent, you're not just an ordinary constituent. You drove all the way from Rodney Bay, come down to St. Jude, spend the entire night at the hospital with you and your family, pray with you, and you stand on a political platform and say nobody from UWP was at your bedside. Even when you were transferred to Tapio, she came up the next day. And Dr. Rigobert had discussions with Philip J.P. as well, you know. St. Lucia, in addition to the text messages, the WhatsApp messages that Philip J.P. sent between him and Alan Shastney about the money, about the hospital, etc. Dr. Rigobert herself also spoke to Philip J.P. because, you know, at that time, everybody had hot Andre. The boy is the candidate. They don't want him to lose his limb. They don't want him to lose his life, etc. and so forth. And so all these people that I have mentioned can substantiate what happened. Joanna Sultan, if you call her now, can tell you what happened. Miss Henry from the French Embassy, if you call her now, can tell you what happened. Darren Snack from the airport can call you now and tell you what happened. Because Alan called him and said, listen, I need you to open that airport because that helicopter needs to come and take him. And when they changed their mind for VG, the instructions were given and said, no, they have a change of plans. Maybe we'll do it via VG. All these things were happening to help save your life. And today, you are ungrateful because Alan Chesney has said something that is true. How is it possible, Andre, that you have a constituent who has lost both his limbs, and you have not made any effort to assist him in ensuring that he can get the same care that you got? Why did Jeremiah not speak about that? That's what I wanted to speak about. And you are ashamed. You should be ashamed to say that the man was just a porter and he has a sticker of you on his vehicle and you allow him to die? He should not. I mean, Andrea, who dies from losing a limb in St. Lucia in this day and age? Who? Where? In what part of the world? Jeremiah didn't die. So this gentleman did not have to die. And Jeremiah Norbert must take responsibility for that, because that's your constituent. And you have to understand that he is a selfish, ungrateful individual, because he did nothing to help that man. And that is what Alan Shasley was saying. That is the point that he was making. Your constituent, your supporter. Andre, if you are not going to help your own constituent and your own supporter, you think if anything happens to me, Nancy Charles, Jeremiah will reach out a hand and try and help me? You think he's going to try and help me? That's to show you when people come into politics and they do not have a heart for the people. When they come into politics and they do not even care about their own people who put them there, these are the type of people that the Labour Party is cultivating in the politics of St. Lucia, and we have to say no to that. We must say no to that type of attitude, because if somebody does something good for you, Andre, and I think everybody knows on that show, when there are people within the Labour Party who does something or say something, I give them their kudos, because that's what it's supposed to be. But you cannot tell me because you only wanted 5 minutes, and in that 5 minutes, bare lies. And the boy called on the name of God, you know. People have to be careful. You have to be careful when you go and say these things and call on the name of God. And if tomorrow, God forbid, but something happened to him, people will say sorry for him. Sometimes what you sow is what you reap, Andre. Sometimes what you sow is what you reap. But I thought it was important for Lucians to know what really happened, because there was nothing for Jeremiah or Philip J. Pierre to gain by coming out and lying about something that is so transparent. Lying about something that so many people who were involved and integrally involved can come out and say, but that's not true. I made the call. I did this. I did that. Why? What do you have to gain from that? This is not politics, Andre.
So Nancy,
this is not politics.
So Nancy, you think that his response was a little excessive, considering the comments made by the opposition leader? Because basically those comments, if I hear you correctly, sort of bringing his reputation into disrepute. So do you think that his response was excessive?
Well, Jeremiah has shown every single St. Lucian who he is exactly. So it's not only that his response was excessive, his response was a lie. And that is what is important for St. Lucians to remember. I mean, when you're a politician on a platform, sometimes you say certain things, and, you know, sometimes we're up there and the crowd is riling you up. You say certain things. We all make mistakes, you know. But this was a deliberate, calculated lie. And because remember the introduction that the Prime Minister gave him, the Prime Minister took time and said what he had to say, and said that Jeremiah will come and demati him. You hear lie, that is lie, and brought Jeremiah on. So this was something that was discussed between Jeremiah and Philip J. Pierre. They both knew what happened. They both knew that it was a lie, and they both conspired to come on that platform and lie to the people of St. Lucia about something that is so transparent. This is a humanitarian thing that Alan Shasley and his cabinet and his government did. This is the right thing that they did to save the life of a young man. Because at the time, nobody cared whether he was Labour Party, UWP, or whatever. At the time, the only concern was this is a young man from the constituency who's been in an accident and he needs help. That's all that was going through the mind of everybody. You think if UWP was vindictive like Labour Party, you think Gail Rigobert would take her time and go and do everything possible to ensure that that man got help? If it was Labour Party, they would never do that. Because, and I can tell you why I can say that, Andre, because it happened to his own constituent. This gentleman was in an accident, lost both his limbs, and Jeremiah did nothing to help him. But he allowed them to send him home. And the day after they sent him home, that he died. Why did they send him home, Andre? Why did they send him home? Information reaching us is that there was no bed at the hospital, and we know that's a fact. There's no bed at the hospital. So this man is sick. He has lost both limbs. You don't have a bed to put him. You send him home. I want Mr. Ben Emmanuel, who's newly appointed to the board, to come out and clarify why was the gentleman sent home prematurely? Why is it that he was sent home and the next day he died at his home? Ben Emmanuel, who's now the new chairman of the board, start off on the right foot and start coming out clean. Don't follow the lies of the Labour Party. Coming out clean and telling us what really happened with this gentleman. That's what we're interested in. I'm not really interested in Jeremiah, you know. I just thought it was important to clarify it. But we are interested in the death of this gentleman. Why did this gentleman die? Why was he sent home 3 or 4 days after an accident, after losing a limb? Both limbs, in fact, and he was sent home. Why is it that Jeremiah and Philip J. Pierre did not see it fitting to say, we need to send this gentleman to Martinique, Barbados, or wherever to get better treatment to ensure that we can save his life? Why? We need the answers to that.
All right, Nancy, thank you very much. And I'm happy that you shed some light on it because, of course, the Labour Party is notorious for just telling half-truths and spewing lies and bluffing. And the UWP, you must confess, Nancy, is famous for not debunking the lies, and so they take root and people believe them. So I'm happy that you did that. But it's sad, and I'm not going to hit Jeremiah Norbert too much, Andre, but except to say that, you know, as a young politician, he has taken off, and I don't want, no pun intended, he has taken off on the wrong foot. And so what I'm saying is you have people like Philip J. Pierre, Richard, who have made a career about blatantly lying. Now, that is not the example you should follow, sir. And, you know, when Philip J. Pierre calls on you to practice what he does, to blatantly tell a lie like this, you know differently, you know better, you should not do that. And, you know, but at the same time, someone was explaining to me that I misunderstood the whole thing. And in fact, when Philip J. Pierre tell people, you hear lie, he was preparing them for the lie that was coming, you know, and then after Jeremiah said what he said, they said, that is lie, you know. And so they are admitting now that they are lying. But I think on a more serious note, I think these are not the things we want in politics. Now, you can score your points differently, you know, by what you do and so on, but not by, you know, and the lie, as a matter of fact, is intended to besmirch Alan Chasney's character. And, you know, and you know, that's not the way to go, and we cannot condone that kind of thing. And Labour Party has done it for too long. They have gotten into office bluffing and lying, and they believe that they can remain in office by doing so. But St. Lucians are wiser, and we in the United Workers' Party are committed to helping open their eyes to seeing the lies and to knowing what the truth is. So I thank you very much, Nancy, for calling in to shed light on this matter. And of course, we will hear a little more about it as time goes by. Okay,
yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Spider, and thank you, Andre.
You're welcome.
I just want to also remind St. Lucians that the United Workers' Party will always stand on a platform of truth. We do not have to lie to the population to win the next election. We will speak to the St. Lucians the truth. We will tell them as it is. We will be honest and open with them because we believe that is the best way for government to operate, and that is the way that the United Workers' Party government will operate, always on transparency and on truth.
Yes, thank you, Nancy. And
okay,
have
guys,
yourself
Have a nice day.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, Andre, this morning, you know, talking about lies, half-truths, bluffs, you know, being disingenuous, you know, I do not know between the Prime Minister and his hand-picked cabinet member that is in his office, Richard Frederick, which one is worse. But there's a matter that I want to deal with, and I know many St. Lucians 2 days ago on Tuesday heard Richard Frederick with his tirade on Timothy Pollion's talk show Newspin. And this morning, what I am going to do, because you see, for too long now, Richard gets away with those things, just comes and try to intimidate people with all his aggression and all his half-truths and all his blatant lies and so on. I have said to him that, I will debunk the lies, and I will take a moment this morning to dissect that call to Timothy Polion and, examine some of the main statements that were made and show the truth about it and shed light on it. And so I don't want to waste any more time, but go straight into it. And I have a number of clips, Andre, that came from that call to Timothy Polion that I want to deal with and comment on. So if we may just go straight into it right away, because we know who Richard Frederick is, we know what he is notorious for, and I don't think that St. Lucian should be allowed to be fooled by him for any longer. I think he should be exposed for who he is and what he is. And so this morning, that is exactly what we are going to do. So if you can go to clip number 1, Andre, let's hear for ourselves, in his words, what exactly he started off with.
Yes, you can make reference to what you want. A criminal is one who carries a conviction for criminal wrongdoing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And insofar as I know, this Richard Frederick that I know does not have anything, an iota of any conviction that seemingly carries the semblance of criminality. And if you want to refer to an incident, then fine. But to bring it into the realms of criminality and to refer to me as a criminal, I just want to say this to Dominic Fede. I will say to him, expect a heavy retort on Thursday. A very heavy one.
Stop there. Yeah.
Because you...
Okay, now...
Sorry,
Yeah.
did Timothy refer to him as a criminal?
No.
Did Timothy do that?
Let me put the situation into context. Dominic Fede called in before Richard called and made reference to the allegations made by the St. Lucian Labour Party about Richard. And he indicated quite rightly that the Labour Party has made allegations that Richard is a criminal, that he is involved in money laundering, that he is involved in drug trafficking, and some of them even suggested he is involved in murder. That is what Dominic made reference to, and he said someone called him and told him that, and he was so incensed that he called the program. Now let's just deal with the first. I noticed the clips are flowing one into the other, Andre?
Yes.
Okay, but let me deal with the first two, because I noticed the first two clips are gone.
Before you continue, I just want to ask you a very, very important question.
Yeah.
As a politician, right?
Yeah.
Is it really
necessary to bring up all those, even if it was said by the Labour Party, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's necessary to rehash that?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Because character is a very important element in a leader. Character is a very important element in choosing a representative. And so we must examine the character of those who present themselves to lead and those who present themselves as representatives of ours.
Yes.
And do not forget, in this case here, they are referring to the individual, when successful, as honorable. You must earn that title. It must not just be given to you when you're not worthy of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you refer to the Labour Party, you say that they're the ones who said those things about him.
That's right.
I'm just saying, is that necessary to refer to the Labour Party as saying so? And why do you think?
Yes, because the source is important. The source is important. And if you put it into context, the very people who said so about him have embraced him. Philip JP in particular has placed him, handpicked him, and placed him in his cabinet, even though he's not a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party.
So doesn't that prove to some degree that politicians just say things?
Well,
whether true, not true?
Some politicians, and those who do that, the spotlight must be shone on them, and they must be exposed for it. And that is exactly what I'm doing this morning. And so let me just start by his first comment. He talked about criminality. A criminal is one who carries a conviction for criminal wrongdoing. That is not the whole truth, and that is what Richard Frederick does. He tells blatant lies, half-truths, and he bluffs. That is a half-truth. Richard Frederick, as a former police, as a lawyer, as a legislator, knows that there are criminals who do not have a conviction. A criminal is someone who carries a conviction for criminal wrongdoing, yes? But a criminal is also one who engages in or has committed a crime. There are people who have committed crimes who have not been caught, who have not been convicted. So the fact that you are not caught, or you were not caught, the fact that you have not been convicted does not mean you are not a criminal if you engage in criminal behavior. Okay? And I know why he left that out, knowing full well that that too is part of the definition of who is a criminal. Okay? Because if he had to give the full definition of criminal, he would be looking in the mirror. And I say so, Andre, because Richard Frederick is known to have committed criminal acts. Okay, and I will substantiate it right here, even before you ask me any question. When Richard Frederick discharged his firearm after a neighbor, okay, that is a criminal act. When Richard Frederick attacked a police officer, kicked his vehicle, and all that, that is a criminal act. Okay, and so there are other actions that he may have been involved in. There are other actions that he has been accused of, even though he does not have a conviction for them. If it is true, that makes him a criminal. So do not come with that. The criminal is one who carries a conviction for a criminal wrongdoing. Okay? It is more than that. Because, Andre, there is a lot of crime taking place in St. Lucia today, and there are many of the culprits who have not been caught, who have not been convicted. So you tell me they're not criminals? Okay. So, that's one. Then he talked about, because of what Fede said, Tim, you know me. Expect on Thursday, I'll be coming down heavy on threats. That's what he does. Threats. A typical characteristic of a bully. Okay? Deal with the issue. You know, I've never heard Richard Frederick deny the claims made by the Labour Party about him. I've never heard him deny it. You know, when they accuse me of being involved in kidnapping, I came out and said I had nothing to do with that. He has not done that till this day. Okay? And so that is what he should be doing rather than come threaten people. So what, you're going to threaten Dominic, that you're going to come down on him on Thursday on your show and so on, so that he'll be afraid to speak in the future and others listening to you will be afraid to say anything about you? Well, you're a public figure, sir. And we have a right to scrutinize you. We have a right to criticize you. And if you think it is unjust, you come out and justify your position by explaining yourself and by clarifying the situation. Okay? So if we can go to the next clip, I'll appreciate that.
I just want to say this to Dominic Fede. I will say to him, expect a heavy retort on Thursday. A very heavy one.
Okay, we've dealt with that. Okay, so go on to the next one, Andrew.
Sometimes you permit the lion to sleep. And when the lion is asleep, you don't wake the lion.
All right. You permit the lion to sleep, you know, all of that veiled threats, and you present yourself like you're a lion. You permit the lion to sleep. Well, Richard, you're no lion. And everyone knows that now. You posture like a lion, you know, because you are the attack dog of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Don't fool yourself into thinking that makes you a lion. Now, when you were in the UWP, you were the attack dog for the UWP as well. I was there, and I know that. But so much so that the Labour Party referred to you as a pit bull. Okay? Since then, you have switched allegiances, and you have become part of the Labour Party government, and you are the main mouthpiece for the St. Lucia Labour Party, and you are the Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre's hand-picked mouthpiece. Okay? And so you're out there keeping a lot of noise and so on. But, you know pit bull anymore. Okay, and I'll tell you something. They described you as a pit bull then because you had back and you had bite and so on. But you know what? All you have now is back. You have more back than bite. And you know what would be a more apt description for that kind of situation? It has been said before. I wasn't the one who originally said it, but I fully agree with it. That is more, the description is more fitting of a mongrel. Mongrels are the dogs that make a lot of noise. Okay, but they have more back than bite. So you know lion, you know pit bull. If you want to describe yourself using the animal kingdom, you fall in the category of a mongrel. And that is what you are. So don't come with your threats and unveil intimidatory tactics to think you're going to scare anybody. Those days are over, Richard. You're not scaring anybody. Okay, next clip, please.
of contradiction. Up to this day, I still admire Sir John Judge Melvin Compton. And I say it without
we skip a couple, Andre, I think. After the the retort, I think he said something about don't wake the lion. Okay.
Not a St. Lucian.
All right.
He was not born here. He will never be a St. Lucian by birth. Who is Dominic Fede to come and attack me in the land of my birth?
But Sir John
Mr. Frederick. Okay. Dominic is not a St. Lucian. He was not born here. Who is Dominic Fede to come and attack me in the land of my birth? Well, let me just say something to you, Richard. What makes you a St. Lucian is your citizenship and your allegiance to the country. Now, my mother was not a St. Lucian, but she spent some 40-something years in St. Lucia, and she worked and toiled in this country to raise a few born St. Lucians who, my brothers and sisters, I'm proud of. Sir John Compton, as Timothy pointed out to him, was not a born St. Lucian. Okay? Sir John was born in the Grenadines. However, he became a citizen of St. Lucia. His heart and soul, as Richard himself admitted, was in St. Lucia, and he made one of the most valuable contributions to this country, so much so that we refer to him as the father of the nation. Now, let me just make one point. Remember, Richard Frederick is the mouthpiece and the spokesman of the St. Lucia Labour Party, handpicked by the Prime Minister. So when he makes his utterances, understand that it is reflective of the position, the policies and principles of the current government. So when Richard talk about you're not about St. Lucian and so on, xenophobia, that is what they are practicing, xenophobia. And I hope all naturalized St. Lucians, all foreigners born in another country who have now become St. Lucians and living in St. Lucia, I hope they are listening, and I hope they are taking note of that. Because, Andre, that is a very dangerous situation. These are very dangerous comments. Among the most divisive things you can engage in as a leader is to start dividing people along racial lines, to start dividing polarizing people because they're foreigners, who's foreigner, who's local, and so on. All citizens are citizens. All citizens of St. Lucia are St. Lucians. And we have to recognize that, especially our leaders. Because what are you saying to me? Richard and the St. Lucia Labour Party will discriminate against an individual because they are not born St. Lucians, even though they are citizens of St. Lucia, and in the case of Dominic Fede, live the better part of his life, okay, nurtured and cultured here in this country. You're telling me you denying him the right to speak? So that is the policy of the St. Lucia Labour Party. We have to be very careful and be very mindful. And we cannot ignore situations like these. When these things happen and we say nothing, it goes from bad to worse. Soon from now, you'll be denied and deprived or penalized for your allegiance to a political party, a religious association, and all of those things. We have to stop this thing, nip it in the bud. We cannot encourage, entertain, or allow prejudices such as this to happen, especially in the higher offices of this country, such as Parliament and Cabinet. And that is what is coming from the St. Lucia Labour Party, who now occupy most of the seats in Parliament and control the Cabinet of St. Lucia. So this is a dangerous situation. And when Richard, the thing is, he's the bolder one, he's the spokesman, so he comes out and says it. But what he's articulating is actually the government position, okay? Because none of them have come out and said anything about it. And so St. Lucians take note, take heed. Because even I, who's a born St. Lucian, my mother, God rest her soul, was born in Montserrat. My children were not born in St. Lucia, but my children are just as St. Lucian as I am, just as St. Lucian as Richard Frederick, and have every right of citizens as citizens of this country to enjoy all the rights and privileges that you and I who were born here enjoy, Andre. And that is how it has to be. If we want a peaceful, harmonious country, we cannot be pushing that kind of rhetoric. We cannot entertain that kind of rhetoric. We can't allow a government to have such a position.
I have a question.
Yes.
So why do you feel that Richard is the spokesperson for the current government?
Well, I'll return the question. Who do you hear most vocal, most vociferous, advocating and articulating the position of government?
Well, he has his own show, which he's had even during your tenure.
Right, which he uses.
So was he Was he the spokesperson at the time when your party was in power?
Well, he was not a member then, but he was attacking the United Workers' Party. They felt that he was effective, so they drafted him to do that for them, and that's what he's doing now. And the Prime Minister, who is the single individual who can make that decision to decide who sits in the cabinet, brought Richard Frederick into his office, the Prime Minister's office.
Oh, so just to be sure, so when Richard was at that time, when your party was in government, he wasn't with your party as yet, no?
He was
a member of your party as yet, no?
No, well, in the last term, Richard was an independent, so to speak. He was not a member of any party. Up to now, he's not a member of any party.
Right.
Because the UWP, contrary to what he said, expelled him.
But sorry, so Richard was never a member of the United Workers' Party?
He was.
Right.
He was.
Right.
He was. And like I said to you, the Labour Party referred to him as a pit bull because he was like, they considered him to be the attack dog of the UWP.
So when he was a member of the party, he was on the air doing the same thing?
No,
right?
not the same. We would not entertain a member of our cabinet, which he was at one time, out there making xenophobic statements, Andre. And for those of you wondering what I'm talking about, xenophobic statements are statements that are prejudicial statements made against people who were not born in this country, even though they are citizens.
So you're saying if he said anything that was contrary maybe to the philosophy of the party, the party would have cautioned him?
I would not be associated with that. I told you my mother was a monstration, my children were not born here. I would not sit in a cabinet with a member espousing those kinds of views. I would not. Personally, I would not. Okay? And let me tell you something. When they attacked Alan Chastney about where he was born, I spoke on that. Because, you know why? It's not about Alan Chastney. Alan Chastney can defend himself, and Alan Chastney can stand for himself. But when I do that, I'm defending my own children. Many of us, Andre, have our children born in Martinique for different reasons. For health reasons, as was Alan Chastney. In my case, I will confess to you, for educational reasons, I had my children born in the States. Okay? So whatever your reason, okay, you decided, and you made that decision for your children. They didn't make that decision. You know the decision they can make? Where do they want to be a citizen of? Okay? And the names I've mentioned so far all decided to be citizens of St. Lucia. So you cannot deny them as a citizen the rights of a citizen. And the right of a citizen is the right to speak, okay, which is what Dominic did.
So just to be sure, you see, whenever Richard makes any of those controversial statements, as long as the incumbent does not distance themselves from it, you perceive that to be...
Tacitly they endorse it.
Endorse it, okay.
Yes. Right. And that is what... And they still have an opportunity to come out and make a statement. So, yes. So he talked about Sir John, you know. Let's hear the rest of the clip, Andrew.
Of contradiction. Up to this day, I still admire Sir John George Melvin Compton. And I say it without fear of contradiction, and I say it without reservation. Sir John was a St. Lucian at heart. When I tell you a St. Lucian, Sir John was the man. When I sat with Sir John said to me, Minister Frederick, you enter in politics. There are certain offices you don't play political football with. He mentioned the Governor General. I could never forget. Okay. He mentioned certain... Imagine.
All right. Okay. Now, you see, you heard a contradiction and you heard a hypocrisy. He admires Sir John. Sir John has his heart in this country. So Sir John was not born here, just like Dominic Fede and Alan Chastney and my children and my mother. Sir John was not born in St. Lucia. You know, he went on to say that Sir John was born on the sea and his first port of entry was St. Lucia, so that makes him St. Lucia. That's a lie, Andre. That is a lie. Okay? Sir John's nationality is the Grenadines. Okay, I think it's Canaan, right? That did not prevent Sir John from giving his heart and soul to St. Lucia as a St. Lucian citizen and serving St. Lucia to the extent that we today refer to him as the father of the nation. Okay? So, you know, when you see, that's the thing about it, because he makes a statement on one hand, like Alan Chastney and Dominic Fede shouldn't speak because they're not born St. Lucians, and then he comes and praises Sir John. You hypocrite, Richard, you are a hypocrite, and you are contradictory. You, in the very same discussion, you contradicting in the very same statement, you contradicting yourself. So let me just say something to you. Just like Sir John, okay, the people you are referring to have a right to contribute, to participate, and to be a part of what takes place in this country with all the rights and privileges that you and I enjoy, despite the fact that they were not born St. Lucian, but they are citizens of St. Lucia. And I call on all non-nationals, all naturalized St. Lucians, to take heed of that kind of threat, because the next thing you know, it goes to the next level. That's prejudicial, and you cannot have your leaders practicing that kind of prejudice against people because of their nationality. The next thing you're going to hear, race, because they have already attacked Alan Chasney about race. The next thing you're going to hear is political affiliation, and the victimization that is taking place is evidence of that mushrooming in St. Lucia. We cannot allow that. If we allow that, we are destroying the very foundation of democracy in this country. All our freedoms, all our rights will vanish because of individuals with characters like Richard Frederick, who will determine who should speak and who should not speak in this country. We cannot have that. And the St. Lucia Labour Party, if that's what you all stand for, understand that there are many of us, citizens of this country, who are not necessarily born here. We have a vote. Well, not we as born here, but they have a vote. And I, as a born St. Lucian, do not condone or endorse that, and I will use my vote to ensure that that does not take root in this country, and that is not allowed to blossom in this country. So please go ahead, Andrew, with the clips.
Mr. Frederick, that's the final thing I'll ask you. The label as being attached to you, right, of being involved in criminality, etc. Don't you think that you could look to the St. Lucia Labour Party? They are chiefly responsible for this.
You're asking me. No. Let me just say this, team. I don't know who is or who is.
Okay, thank you, Andre. The question asked of Richard Frederick is that because Dominic said it was the Labour Party who alleged that you were his son. They are asking him. Okay, they said Timothy said to him, the Labour Party are the ones who his response was, he does not know who. He does not, let me say, I do not know who is or who is not responsible for calling me a criminal. Richard says that. Now again, that's a blatant lie, Andre, and we all know that it is a lie. And to prove that is a lie, there are many, many clips of Richard responding to the fact that the St. Lucia Labour Party referred to him as a criminal. Okay? Let's just play one such clip, Andre. If people think I'm just making up stories, those who are not.
If Dr. Kenny Anthony knows that there will be developments because he was at the embassy with Le Corbusier, if he knows there will be developments, then one has to assume, it is reasonable to assume that he knows the reason why my visa was revoked. He alleged on a political platform that it was because I was encountered with a briefcase containing some over $300,000 US. He said so. He's now in a position to give credibility to himself.
Mr. Frederick lashed out at the island's Home Affairs Minister, who he claims had some part to play in the visas being revoked.
La Corbusier, as Attorney General, went to the embassy not realizing that at some point the statement will be released, said that I was using St. Lucia as a transshipment point for drugs from Colombia to distribute throughout the region. La Corbusier has to lend credibility to himself.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Now, those two clips, that last clip that you just heard there, that goes back to when St. Lucia Labour Party was in office. La Corbusier was the Attorney General, Minister of Home Affairs, and Dr. Anthony was the Prime Minister. And here you have Richard making reference to Dr. Anthony, saying that he was caught with a briefcase with over $300,000 US. That is called money laundering, Andre. So that's an allegation of money laundering, according to Richard, that was made by Dr. Anthony, the person who does not know who is responsible for calling him a criminal. Okay. Secondly, he went on to say that Mr. La Corbusier, who was then the Home Affairs Minister, okay, indicated that he was involved in drugs. Okay, that is drug trafficking. Okay, that is drug trafficking. Richard is saying that they accuse him of that, but On Tuesday, he's saying on Timothy's program, he does not know who or who is not responsible. You know damn well who is responsible. If you do not know who is responsible, look around you, you will see them. Okay, because it was not just Dr. Anthony and Lacobinier. Philip J. Pierre was a part of it as well. Okay, people like Emma Hippolyte, I wonder what they have to say today. You see, and that is the hypocrisy, you know, that we allow in this country. And let people get away with those things. That says something about your integrity. That says something about your character. When you can be so duplicitous and bold-faced, hypocritical. You know what I'm saying? And Richard, you are again telling a bold-faced lie. And that's what you do best. A half lie, bold-faced lies, and bluff. And that was a lie. And I just wanted to expose that. Because there are many other clips, Andre, that we don't have time to go into right now, where the St. Lucia Labour Party is making the allegation of Richard being a money launderer, a drug trafficker, and in some cases a murderer. And he knows it because I've heard him respond to it on many occasions. I just wanted to give one example. One example is sufficient to debunk the lie that he has told. Let's head to the next clip.
There was nowhere around. Dominic Fede was nowhere around. And I dare say categorically, those two foreigners, those two non-born solutions were nowhere around when I was taking the heat for the United Workers' Party. Well,
okay. Now, you hear it again? Xenophobia. Those two foreigners, and you heard the venom with which he's saying it? That is a representative of our government. That is a representative of our cabinet. That is a hand-picked individual, hand-picked by the Prime Minister to be in his office, to do his bidding, to be his spokesperson. People that we have to be very careful about. And even if some of us were born here in this country, starting with me, talking about loved ones, there are people who are I consider my children to be a part of me. Okay? Part of us were not born in St. Lucia. Part of me was not born in St. Lucia. And you're going to tell me I will condone and endorse that kind of rhetoric and then let it flare up, mushroom, and grow into something where it goes out of control and these people use their power to victimize, to penalize, and to abuse the rights and privileges of people because they were not born in this country, even if they are citizens and making a contribution to this country. I condemn that outrightly, and I am asking the Prime Minister and the rest of the cabinet to come out and let St. Lucia know where they stand on this issue. Because I'm saying today, based on what a member of the St. Lucia cabinet has said, the St. Lucia Labour Party is a xenophobic government. Come out, distance yourself from it, and deny it if that is not true. Okay? And that is how strongly I feel about it, you know. And we know Richard's character, and you talk about character. When you have people with that kind of character, who feels that they are above reproach, that they are above being questioned or criticized, they behave in that way, intimidate anybody who would dare to question them, anybody who dare to criticize them, you know, and that kind of thing. We cannot allow that because we, you know, freedom, Andre, is not just the ability to go where you want, you know. Not only those who are not in prison that are free. Freedom is also the ability to speak your mind. If you're not free to speak your mind, you just as in prison as the people behind bars. Because I'm sure some of them speaking their mind inside there. You understand what I'm saying? I want to know that I have absolute freedom, and I have freedom in the true sense of freedom. That I cannot be afraid to say what I have on my mind. I cannot express my views and my opinion because there's another man who is so powerful who can deny me of it and tell me what to say and what not to say. Not in this country. Not in our democracy. That will not happen, and Richard Frederick must understand. He may assume that he has power. He does not have the power to come with that kind of thing. And the St. Lucia Labour Party, is that the kind of people you all embrace? Is that the kind of people you all endorse? And you see why I condemn the St. Lucia Labour Party? It's not like they do not know, or like they did not know about Richard Frederick, you know. They told us in St. Lucia who Richard Frederick was. And they have him because it suits them for him to come with that character to do their bidding for them. And so the Prime Minister is going to stand back, allow it to happen. So his hands don't get dirty, but they're using Richard as the attack dog, the mongrel. Because that is mongrel behavior. You, Andre, when somebody comes by your yard, you may not want to face the person. You stay behind your curtain and you send your mongrel to back. That is what is happening there. Mongrel behavior. You understand what I'm saying? And Richard Frederick must know that St. Lucia is not his. St. Lucia does not belong to him. And he's not more St. Lucian than any St. Lucian, whether naturalized or born in this country. Okay. So let's go to the next clip, please.
You all just did a poll that came out on the 6th of January. Okay? Richard Frederick is leading at 73%. Okay? 73, the man 21.6 uncertain, which shows very minimal uncertainty. And it is because I've won 4 elections, team. I have won, and you don't win 4 elections.
Okay. Which poll is that, by the way?
He is claiming that the United Workers' Party has a poll that came out on the 6th of January, and the poll is saying that he's leading by 73%. Absolute BS. I'm a member of the United Workers' Party, okay, and as PRO, there's a lot of information that I am privy to from the United Workers' Party. That is absolute BS. And these are the things he does. Lie. Bold-faced lie. Okay? Now...
So conducting that poll, was that something that was made public?
No.
So how did he get wind?
Well, you have to ask yourself that. To make up a lie, but it's a lie, Andre. It is a lie. I can tell you it is a lie.
No, what I'm saying, it wasn't made public that you had conducted a poll. So how would he get to know that?
No, well, if you're conducting a poll, people would know you're conducting a poll because you go out and ask people questions. Mm-hmm. But to divulge the results of the poll when you've never seen the poll, you know. Now, okay, let's just dissect this for a moment.
Or maybe he has.
If he has, is he honest about what he saw in the poll? Because I am not at liberty to divulge the poll. That's not my responsibility. The party has to deal with their poll first and so on. And as PRO, when they say to me, okay, that is the decision, I will come out and say what I feel needs to be
So what he said there...
It's an absolute, bold-faced, blatant lie. I told you the guy is famous for telling half-truths, for telling outright lies, and for bluffing. Okay? That one is an outright lie. If you don't want to believe me, let's dissect that statement. Richard Frederick, in his heyday, never got 60% of the votes at the polls. Never. Okay? That's not your heyday now. Okay? You were more popular, Richard Frederick, 3.5 years ago than you are today. I am telling you that. Okay? Compare the number of votes you got, the percentage of votes you got with the percentage that you say in the poll is revealing today. Absolute rubbish. Because all the guys you attacked and call them thugs and criminals, you're a thug yourself, by the way, Richard, you know, because you fit the description of a thug. You know, people who intimidate others, threaten them and so on, that is a thug, and you fit that description perfectly. But you call them a thug, you call them criminals. And I'm told Andre, he's moving around with some of them right now because he realized, you know, he called them that because he felt the guys had shifted away from him. But when he did that, the guys reacted. And you saw the clips where he went into the constituency and they call him all kinds of names that he called other people, you know. And I'm not going to repeat on your program some of the names that they call him. He recognized in the slide, and he does what Richard Frederick does, but humble himself and come and spend money and beg and so on. So some of them are back with him. Now, what does that say about that individual? Andre, if you are a criminal, if you are a thug, I simply don't want to have anything with you. Not for a vote, not for friendship, not for companionship. I don't want to have anything with you. If I can say you are that, and I'm associating with you, that says a lot about me. Okay? And so, Richard, it says a lot about you. And so when you come and talk about, you know, criminals and all that kind of thing, you know, and now you want to talk about like you're so popular, you're 73% in the poll. Fool yourself. I hope you believe the lie that you're telling. Fool yourself. The polls will reveal to you what the true situation is. And he talked.
So is he actually included in that poll?
Yes, he is.
Okay, all right.
So Timothy, he's telling. I'm not at liberty to divulge. Yes, the party will decide when they're ready because they have to. First of all, the executive, their members, and so on before I can make the poll public. But when the time comes, and the real poll, Andre, is election day. That is the poll that will tell Richard where he stands. You know, the 73% he's talking about. That's where he'll see it. And I hope he's not shocked when he sees where the 73% goes. You know, and so he talked about, you know, he's a force to be reckoned with, and he has won 4 elections, you know, and boasting and all of that. Andre, let me tell you something. Let me just say something to you. Richard Frederick is making himself out to be a giant in St. Lucian politics, and as an individual, single-handedly, he is, the most popular politician and is a force to reckon with. Richard, you cannot win an election in St. Lucia on your own as an individual. You cannot. And never mind the crap about independent candidate. You were never an independent candidate. Okay? You run under the guise of being an independent candidate.
What do you mean by that?
Let me explain. In 2006, in March 2006, when former parliamentarian Mrs. Sarah Fleur Beaubrun resigned as a parliamentarian and forced a by-election, Richard ran and he said he was independent. The full force of the United Workers' Party Castries constituency branch was behind Richard Frederick. Okay? He enjoyed the support of the Castries constituency branch of the United Workers' Party, who rallied supporters of the United Workers' Party, and they voted for Richard Frederick. So that is not, purely speaking, an independent candidate. The United Workers' Party, remember, did not fill in a candidate. Had we filled in a candidate, UWP supporters, and we have DAD supporters too, would have voted for UWP. Would Richard Frederick have won? That is the question you must ask. So before he tout himself as being so powerful and so much of a force to reckon with, he must remember that. And you know why? You know why we did not fill in a candidate? It is because at the time, Richard Frederick was the leading person because the Castries constituency branch was pushing him. And they were pushing him on the party. They were pushing him on Sir John. And Sir John, I can tell you now, with no fear of contradiction like Richard himself will say. Okay, I can tell you categorically, Sir John did not want you, Richard. And that is why, rather than run you as a candidate because the branch was insisting that you should be the candidate, he decided that he was sitting out that election. He would not fill in a candidate. And you know what Sir John famously said? He's not participating in no Batem Popot. He's waiting for the Guanos, which was the real general election. Okay? To avoid having you run as a UWP candidate. You will ask me now, but he ran for you in the general election. Well, so let me tell you something. Sir John did not want him either. But Sir John was pressured by many UWP members, and in particular, the Castries UWP constituency branch. They insisted that they wanted Richard, and so Sir John's hands were forced. And if you recall, and I'm going to repeat it again, and Richard, you cannot deny that because that is on record. If you recall, Richard ran with a green, his color was green, and he came on the boulevard at the UWP meeting with his green shirt, and then he now was transferred from independent to UWP according to him, and he put on his yellow shirt. When Sir John as leader was presenting Richard Frederick, Sir John famously made that comment. And Andre, you're more familiar with the Bible than I am. Figure out what that means for yourself. So John said, well, you ask for Barabbas, I give you Barabbas. Well, you're laughing. You're laughing. Andre, tell me what that is supposed to mean. I was so confused when I heard that I went back, knowing that I am too strong on Bible verses. I went back and said, but to me that didn't fit. That's your candidate. You presenting regarding Barabbas. And to me, what I remember Barabbas to be in my little Bible studies, my little catechism. I say, but how, Only to find out subsequently in speaking to Sir John, it is because Sir John endorsed Richard against his will. Sir John did not want him. Ask yourself why Sir John did not want him. I found out later that Sir John knew far more about Richard Frederick than I did. Okay?
So let me ask you something. So why do politicians compromise so much? I mean, Sir John was known to be a strong-willed individual, right?
It's a democracy.
And the same thing would apply for the Labour Party. I mean, if you feel so strongly about something, and because you're being pressured, you give in, right? And the same thing can be said about the Labour Party, because maybe they were pressured as well, and they gave in.
Pressured by whom?
I don't know.
I will go on a limb to say that the majority of the St. Lucia Labour Party members do not want Richard Frederick.
But it's the same thing.
Let me just say something.
No,
it was not the same thing. The majority of the UWP members then wanted Richard Frederick because they did not know what Sir John knew then.
But this is the point I'm making.
We now know. No. We now know. We now know a lot of what Sir John knew because Sir John let me just say something to you. So John having been Prime Minister, Dr. Vaughan Lewis having been Prime Minister, Stephenson King having been Prime Minister, Dr. Anthony having been Prime Minister, and Alan Shasney having been Prime Minister, Andre, know far more than you and I will ever know about security matters and things like that in this country. Let me just say to you, having sat a few times as acting Prime Minister, okay, you are briefed by the police commissioner on a weekly basis. So don't be surprised if they say to me, we have this guy, Andre Paul, who is this and that. So I will know about you. Even if you have not been arrested and they have no proof or anything, I will know about you. Okay? Those people know. And when the foreign embassies have an issue, they don't call me. They will not call you. They speak to the Prime Minister. So let me just say this. So when Richard Frederick lost his visa, Dr. Anthony knew why. The sitting Prime Minister then, Stephenson King, knew why. And I'm saying that openly and boldly. And I'll tell you what is the basis for me to make that statement. I can't prove Dr. Anthony knew, but based on the utterances he made, I get a distinct impression that he knew. Let me tell you why I know that Stephenson King knew. The entire cabinet was confused. Why did Richard lose his visa? Richard claimed he did not know. So we say, well, Gasna, America is supposed to be a friendly government with us. They would take such a drastic action against one of our members and not give us an explanation. So we asked the Prime Minister, Stephenson King, to write to the embassy in Barbados to find out the reason why Richard's visa was revoked. The embassy wrote back to Stephenson King and he read the letter to us, and guess what they said? For the same reasons that we explained to you before. So Stephenson King knew. Okay? Stephenson King knew. Richard Frederick must know. And the Prime Ministers in between know. And Philip J.P. by virtue of being Prime Minister now knows. He was Deputy Prime Minister in the Labour Party. He must know. And for him to handpick, let me tell you something. Now, very rare you'll hear me giving kudos to opposition politicians. It's not my job to do that. I'm a PRO for UWP, not SLP. But I give Dr. Anthony credit for a measure of principle. Okay? For a measure of principle. Although some of the advice he has given me he has not taken for himself. But Dr. Anthony said that he will not have a drug dealer, he will not have a money launderer. I don't know if he said murderer too, but for sure he said those two in any Labour Party cabinet. Someone told me Philip Pierre said that. I did not hear him say that myself. But today, Philip Pierre has in his cabinet someone they accuse of being a money launderer and a drug trafficker. Dr. Anthony did not accept a cabinet position. The question still remains, why? He owed it to us to tell us, but he has not told us, and the Prime Minister said to us, we can speculate. So let me speculate. I believe Dr. Anthony did not take a cabinet position because he did not want to sit on a table with Richard Frederick. That is my guess. Okay? And you know what? Look at lies again. When the cabinet was named, Philip Pierre told us that Dr. Anthony will not be a member of the cabinet for now, but because he needs some time to sort out some matters related to his personal affairs or his private practice or something to that effect. And in 6 months' time, we'll think, because he probably thought he would be able to convince Dr. Anthony within 6 months to accept a position in cabinet. He has not. And Dr. Anthony, I'm not your spokesman, I'm not speaking on your behalf, but I'm telling you my suspicion is, given the strong positions you have expressed about Richard Frederick, that you refuse to sit in this cabinet on a matter of principle because Richard Frederick is a part of that cabinet. Okay? And so, Alan Shasney was a member of cabinet as well with Richard Frederick. He knows enough about Richard Frederick, and he knows more now that he was Prime Minister about Richard Frederick. Okay? So I can tell you, Richard Frederick will not be accepted in the UWP after he was expelled. And there's a reason why there are members of the St. Lucia Labour Party who refuse to accept Richard's application as a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Let me just say something to you that is very interesting. The Prime Minister single-handedly, unilaterally can pick his cabinet. You serve in cabinet at the behest of the Prime Minister. So Philip J. Pierre made the unprincipled decision without any explanation to us. Because if you claim that I'm a criminal, I'm a money launderer, a drug dealer, and even a murderer, and tomorrow You have me sitting in high office and so on. You at least owe the people an explanation to say, well, okay, it's either Spider has been absolved of his sin, or I was wrong in what I said about Spider or something. You have to do that. That has not been done, but he's in your cabinet because he has the power to make that decision. But you know what? Your membership in a party, Alan Shastney cannot unilaterally accept you as a member of the United Workers' Party. There's a process, and there are many people involved in that process. Why is Richard begging to be a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party? He's a member of cabinet, but they're not accepting him. They're not endorsing his membership. Richard, they don't want you. That is clear, plain and simple. They don't want you. UWP doesn't want you. Labour Party does not want you. Okay? And because the Prime Minister, who happens to be the leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, is an unprincipled man, accepting you in the fold, handpicking you despite all what he knows about you, you were able to get your way to become a member of cabinet, which is the power you want. Okay? But the rest of the Labour Party not happy with you. If they were happy with you, they're happy with some of the things you're doing, mind you, as the attack dog, the mongrel backing for them. They're happy with that. But generally speaking, they know that just like what you did to the United Workers' Party, okay, you brought the United Workers' Party down in 2011, you are going to do that to them at the next general election. And Labour be warned, Richard Frederick will bring you all down. Now let me just say something.
How did he bring your government down?
On the eve of apart from all the allegations that came from the St. Lucia Labour Party about drug dealing, money laundering, and so on. Now don't forget, first and foremost, St. Lucia is a little circle, Okay? Andre, if you shout too loud from where you live in Leclerc, I hear you in Rosalie. So don't think there's much you don't know about me or I don't know about you. And that is without paying any attention to your business, Andre. So that's a small country. It's a small country. So a lot of us know what is going on. We hear, we see, we know what is going on. And people have been speaking openly. There's a lady who came out and talked about Reginald Jean being her nephew. She's Reginald Jean's aunt. And we heard what she said. She said clearly Reginald Jean was a hitman for Richard Frederick. Okay? Richard Frederick has not come out to debunk that or deny it. He owes it to us as a public figure to do that. And so I'm saying to you, the point I was making is, you asked me how do I know. What was the question?
Yes. You said he brought down, I think that's what you said.
Yeah. So at the time, all those allegations were being made. Okay? He was under more scrutiny, having put himself in public office, in public life. And so a lot of people were able to judge and determine for themselves whether those allegations had any basis or not. And on top of that, Andre, the U.S. revoked his visa. Now the question you have to ask yourself, does the U.S. just arbitrarily revoke someone's visa? There are reasons why they do that. And the Labour Party spelled out the reasons to us. You understand what I'm saying? And among the reasons are the things that they mentioned. If you're a money launderer, if you're a terrorist, if you're a drug dealer, these are among the reasons why they would revoke your visa. Okay? Up to today, nobody has explained to us why the visa was revoked. Kenny has, in his veiled way, Dr. Kenny Anthony has, But Shastney knows, Philippia knows, Stevenson King knows. You understand what I'm saying? So, on top of that, he is sitting in Philippia's cabinet. Philippia does not know that the bank closed his account. Philippia does not know that. Andre, why did they close the account? Andre, even I barely have any money. They don't close my account for that, If the account end up being going to zero, now with some of the banks deducting money from you, they don't even close my account. They start telling me I'm negative, whatever, so I'm owing them. You understand what I'm saying? So if they close your account, Andre, there is a reason why they close your account. And what are the reasons why a bank will close your account? Money laundering is one of the big reasons. You understand what I'm saying? Has Richard come out and explained to us why his account was closed? Now, the banks, through confidentiality and so on, they have a responsibility to their customers. They will not come and say it. But it is for us, with Richard not saying it, because Richard owes it to us. The bank does not owe it to you, but Richard owes it to us. And the bank will not just close his account without giving him a reason. He has not disclosed. So like the Prime Minister said, speculate. So I'm not going to speculate. I'm going to ask questions. Is it because of money laundering? So, and that is the character you have sitting in your cabinet today, at the behest of Philip JPA. Okay? So, Andre, I mean, there's a lot to be discussed about this individual, his character, his integrity, and so on, because he does not make it better for himself with all the lies that he's saying. And Richard believes by being vociferous, being loud, and so on, being supposed like that makes him more powerful or more convincing. You're not convincing anybody, you're not fooling anybody. I must admit, when you shout at some people, they get scared. And so Richard is using that effectively to intimidate. But more and more, Richard, people are seeing through you. And the intimidation factor, the fear factor that you once wielded is diminishing rapidly. Okay? Nobody is scared of you anymore. You can't intimidate anybody anymore. People understand now that that is the trait of a bully and a coward. Okay? And now you're going to see how many people are going to stand up to you as of now, Richard Frederick. They will, and in Castries Central, you'll find less of it because they'll eat your money. And when the time comes, because they can do it secretly, you will find out about the 73% you're boasting about. Okay, Andre, next clip, please.
Okay, is that something separate or?
Pardon?
Is that something separate? Because I'm not able to introduce what's coming up next.
No, just play the clip.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Okay, it was a video.
Yes.
Oh, and you can play videos. Okay, I wanted to show a video, but I will discuss it. I will discuss it because I really wanted to show it, but in time you will get it.
Yeah, we can only have the audio.
Okay, I'll use Nancy's show to advertise my show. Tune in on Monday night and you will see exactly what I wanted to show you. And I will say it now because I have evidence, tangible evidence of it. The next clip would have said that Richard Frederick is one of the hardest working politicians that ever walked on St. Lucian soil. Richard said that about himself. Talk about self-praise. Talk about self-praise. The hardest working politician. And he said, well, Timothy and Rick agrees to that. Well, I will surprise St. Lucians. I agree to that too. I'll agree to that too. Because what I wanted to show you is the hard work that Richard Frederick has been doing. Andre, we cannot show the video, but if you drive on the highway to Dennery, if you come in from Beaufort, you can look to your right. You will see 3 houses that constitute a housing project done by the Minister of Housing of St. Lucia, Minister Richard Frederick. Now, so that you do not have difficulty identifying the housing project, I think the houses are painted either blue or green, but they're painted the same color and they're side by side. Now, I don't want you to come back and tell me you did not see any houses, that you saw a chicken coop or you saw a dog house or anything like that. I'm telling you, these are houses. Okay? And never mind that the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Philip JPA, famously said that when people criticize the houses, because they're really like chicken coops, okay? I have houses for my animals on my farm that are superior to that, okay? Never mind, okay, the famous statement made by Honorable Philip JPA. You know what he said, Andre? These are not houses for people. These are houses for the poorest of the poor. I repeat, Honorable Philip JPA, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, at the ceremony when they were making a big scene, a song and dance, and I think they would be ashamed to be associated with that. If I, as a private individual, donate that to I'm not even going to boast about it, Andre. The government of St. Lucia, through the Ministry of Housing, who had $10 million to assist people with housing, they built those 3 shacks, plywood shacks. And the Prime Minister stood up and said, these are not houses for people. If you see them, you'll understand why he says they're not houses for people. If you see them, and you see my animal houses, my rabbit houses, my goat, I heard my brother refer to it as a corral, my goat corral, and my pig pen, okay? If you see them, you'll understand why the Prime Minister said, these are not houses for people. But he went further to say, and that's where I felt the insult lies. He went further to say, these are houses for the poorer of the poor. So I want St. Lucians to take note of what the St. Lucia Labour Party thinks of the poorer of the poor. So the indigent people of St. Lucia are not considered to be people by the St. Lucia Labour Party, because they gave them those houses, but those are not houses for people. Okay? And these are facts that can be borne out through the clips that exist. And that's the beauty of technology today. But I want to end by saying that Richard touts himself as being so popular, has been so powerful, has been, a giant in St. Lucian politics and all of that. Let me just say something to you, Richard. Yes, you are popular. And what is popularity? Popularity means being well liked or being well known. Now, understand, Andre, some people are popular because they are famous. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about Sir Arthur Lewis. He's popular, everybody knows him because he's famous, he won a Nobel Prize. The same with Sir Derek Walcott. Okay? The same with Darren Sammy. He's a most famous St. Lucian cricketer, Darren Sammy. Julian Alfred, she is popular because she's famous. Rick Wayne is popular because he's famous. These people have achieved world feats. Mr. World, Rick Wayne. Julian Alfred, Olympic champion. Derek Walcott and Arthur Lewis, Nobel Prize winners. Okay? Darren Sammy, captain of West Indies cricket team. They are popular because they were famous. But understand, there are also some people who are popular because they are notorious. Okay? And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Andre, I'm talking about people like El Chapo, that drug baron from South America. I'm talking about Escobar, another drug baron. I'm talking about Al Capone in the United States. Okay? And I'm talking about Richard Frederick. Those are people who are popular because they are notorious. Okay? So when you talk about popularity, be careful. What is the source of your popularity? What is the genesis of your popularity? Why are you popular? And I'm saying to you, Richard, you will remain popular, but you will not be well liked. Because you are doing everything for St. Lucians to despise you. Because you are showing disdain and disrespect to St. Lucia. You have been insultive, you have been intimidating, and you have been abusive to St. Lucians, especially women, especially vendors in this country. You will pay a price for that. But you will remain popular. I will not doubt it. So, Andre, what time we have there? Can we open our line to our callers? Now, these, I want Richard Frederick to refute. There are some questions and issues I want the St. Lucia Labour Party to address. Well, I've given up on Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre because, all he does is tell outright lies and fabricate stories and so on. And he pretends, because he was there when Richard called the president of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association as Zélève Flambeau because of the letter that she wrote expressing her concerns about the hospital. And you know what he said when he was questioned? That he did not hear. But he was present when it was said, but he did not know that he said that. So we have a call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Please go ahead and make a contribution.
Good morning, Spider. Good morning, Andrew.
Morning.
Good morning to all your listeners. Spider, you have done a fantastic job describing this gentleman and trashing the trashiest, well, not trashing, but billing the trash that Richard Frederick spilled on our holy ground in St. Lucia. Because I too, and my name is Jimmy Haynes. I was not born in St. Lucia. I'm a proud citizen of this country who have given a lot and made a lot of sacrifices for my communities and my country. And I take great umbrage with the trash that Richard Frederick, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, and many members of the Labour Party are trying to mislead the more ignorant and gullible St. Lucians into believing that there are two classes of St. Lucians. That there are higher St. Lucians, those born in St. Lucia, and lesser St. Lucians, those who were not born in St. Lucia. The shame, the embarrassment for us as St. Lucians is that we elected those gentlemen into the helm of our governments as our leaders. And the whole world has to listen to people like that. Men of questionable integrity and men who are using their position in office to be mean citizens of this country because they decide to stand up and speak the truth against the lies, the incompetence, and the corruption of this St. Lucia Labour Party government. Shame on them, Spider. Shame on them. Let's continue to highlight and to shed a light on this egregious behavior. And justice will be served. It will be served in the ballot boxes whenever the Prime Minister gathers the gonads for the election. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Andre, I'm happy that a St. Lucian citizen who's not a born St. Lucian has seen the danger in that kind of approach and has spoken about it. And the rest of you have to speak about it. And those of us who are born here, do not allow any individual or any organization, any political party to divide us in that way. Have us become polarized about St. Lucians who are born here, St. Lucians who are not born here. We don't need that in this country. Okay, that kind of xenophobia, that kind of prejudice should not exist among us. These are the roots of and the breeding ground for divisiveness, for war, and for people to hate each other. And that is not what leadership is supposed to bring about in a country. They're supposed to bring people together instead.
We have another call.
Yes, caller. Good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Please go ahead and make your contribution.
And Andre, good show as usual, Spider. And I like how you're debunking Richard Frederick. Now he has a show. Even before he won the election, how can I help you? But this time around, getting close to the election, his show is, how can I lie to you? Because that's what he's been doing. He's a professional liar. Now, Spider, I heard he talk about Dominic Fede. He's not a St. Lucian, and he's more St. Lucian than the man. The Attorney General in New York State or New York City is a Jamaican, but she is an American citizen. Automatically, she has the same rights, just like the Americans. Anybody in America will never tell the woman she's from Jamaica, blah, blah, blah. You had Colin Powell, where he's from. He used to be the Secretary of State of the United States. He's a Jamaican. And we have so many people in different positions all over the world, especially St. Lucian. No matter where you come from, this is what it is. And this man repeatedly lying to our country people. And you know the problem I have with St. Lucians? St. Lucians too easy to fool. You could buy them with penny. You could buy them with $5. That's why the Prime Minister, when he was in opposition, he said $5 could block a hole. $5 can block a hole when you put 2.5% on the people of St. Lucia. And he kept lying and say the 2.5% was for health and security. That money is not even circulating in what he preached. So what they're doing to us right now, they're just stealing the money from the St. Lucian people. And we St. Lucian need to stand up and to tell the government what they're doing to us. They need to stop it. But the next election that will be due very soon, I know for sure St. Lucians are frustrated. They're bullying people. They're carrying on just like Donald Trump, using care tactics, to deport people and all kind of things like that. I don't have a problem with the criminals being deported, But look at people from all over the world going to America to get to work, to send back money, to have a good living with their families back home. And some of these people have no criminal record. And what Richard has to understand, the UWP, I was in his campaign and helped at the time to win when he went independent. And the very colleagues he thinking that like in the Labour Party, most of them on the election day, the by-election, they were on the ground. I was interacting with them, and they say, no man, the man is going to win, the man this, that, and the other. And today, he's in bed with the Labour Party. The same Labour Party, he said they went to Barbados to revoke his visa. And he mentioned Mr. Lacobin, and you played the tapes. The tapes are there. I hope Solution taking good notes, because we cannot have a guy like Richard Frederick back into power and the Labour Party need to go. And they need to go comprehensively, because if these guys get back into power, we're going to be worse than Haiti. You see like the guns all over the country with the guns. They are the ones that will be controlling St. Lucia. But we need to eradicate Richard Frederick and the St. Lucia Labour Party. I have more to say, but there's people that will call the program. I want to give them a chance.
Okay, thank you, caller. Now, Andre, I want to say this.
You have another caller?
Especially in a small country like ours, you cannot become so insular and have people polarize along, nationality and, come with that kind of prejudice and so on. Because, bear in mind that in Barbados, you had Thompson, who was not born in Barbados, who became Prime Minister. You have, in Grenada, Bishop he was not born in Jamaica. We have had Prime Ministers who were not born in the country. Here in St. Lucia, we had Sir John, we had Sir George Mallet. Those people were not born in St. Lucia, but they made their contribution and they served the country. And they were as St. Lucian as the rest of us. So that kind of rhetoric is dangerous, and we need to stamp it out in this country. Good morning, caller. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Please go ahead and make your contribution.
Good morning, Mr. Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning, caller.
Mr. Montoute, you made us comment. You're correct, and I was one of those in 2005 when Richard Frederick went up as an independent candidate who mounted his platform. And I'm a UWP supporter. I was one. So what you say is so truthful. In 2005, the entire United Workers Machinery rallied around. Even when I got tired from my fellow party, why are you going on this matter? I mounted this canvas. I came to ensure that Richard Frederick won the by-election of 2005.
Yeah, I'm in a problem.
Caller, just try calling back, please, because we're having some issues hearing you properly. Just try calling back.
Well, let me just say this, Andre. Even in the 2021 election, when Richard claimed to have run independent, we knew that the Labour Party did not field in a candidate, and so he enjoyed the support of the constituency branch of the Labour Party and the Labour supporters. So to suggest that he, as an individual by himself, has won an election, what I wanted him to do is in 2016, when UWP had a candidate, Labour had a candidate for him to run as independent. Or, I suspect Philippe J. Pierre will be under a lot of pressure not to have Richard as an SLP candidate, which is what he wants. That's why he's applying to become a member. But I know the general membership of the party does not want him, so he may very well have to run independent again. But let us see, with an SLP candidate, a UWP candidate, let us see him win the general election. Yes, caller, good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. Please go ahead and make your contribution.
Good morning, Spider.
Good morning.
Andre, you have a problem with your line here?
No, you're fine.
Behind you, clearly.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay. Spider, let me say that I listened to the program, and when Nancy called at the beginning and relating to the accident with member for Mikud North, I know exactly what Nancy said. That is exactly what happened. Why we want to make a lie with that?
Yeah.
That is so simple. That is Andre. That is straightforward. Why we want to lie on that? And I heard the Prime Minister, which is supposed to be the leader of the country, saying that very same thing. And if we continue to play clips, what the Prime Minister has said before, it would not even make any sense for the Prime Minister to stand as the Prime Minister. Because but like
but if you have pride and shame, caller, when they expose you telling a lie, you check yourself. But these guys don't check themselves. They don't care.
Because if people are doing that after there is no technology now, no recording, so they can just go ahead and say things. And I'm glad that you play those clips, and people will hear the difference before and after. If we continue like that, and it's surprising that you have persons that are leaders. And when we talk about leaders can say these things in a town hall and believe that is the truth. I mean, I'm not classifying Philip as a leader anyway, because they didn't have a choice. They put him there. He was next in line, as. But then to be somebody, to support something like that, when you know exactly that is not what happened in that accident. Everything Nancy Charles said there was correct. And I'm supporting St. Lucian. And let me say that quickly while I'm about citizen who should be qualified to be a St. Lucian and who is not. Spider, I have a grandson. He born in the States. So you would, although now Trump trying his best to appeal, persons who born in the States cannot be American. But then we have so many people that have served in St. Lucia, including the head of the what was his environment, not that guy from Guyana was the trust, the head of the trust. Tulsi.
Oh yeah, Mr. Tulsi.
Tulsi.
Yeah.
Tulsi is not a St. Lucian. He's a Guyanese. But he's enjoyed a privilege in St. Lucia, even went as far as standing against the previous government when they had planned to develop this country. You see?
Well, there are lots of St. Lucians who make sterling contributions there, but they were not born here. And we are too small and too limited in resources for us to come with that kind of divisiveness.
Very well. And I believe if we continue, and people should stand, and I like the way you handle that thing, people still need to stand and take a stand, because we cannot allow to be bullying in our country and make us look small. And if we allow that every time like that, it's a license that we are going to give those that are in authority to do what they want with us. You have a good program, and I support the program, and that is what we need to do. Come back and debunk those lies and explain to those St. Lucians who want to listen and not to let those persons come and buy them during election with chicken and rum. And they know very well, right now the tides are high, and pretty soon, when election will be called in St. Lucia, the Labour Party will be history, because we cannot allow a party like that to be on the back of the people of St. Lucia. I thank you.
Thank you very much, caller.
Okay, final caller.
Yes. Caller, good morning. Welcome to Meet the Opposition. You are our final caller. Please go ahead and make a contribution.
Good morning, Morning, Andre.
Hi, morning.
Good show, Spider.
Oh, thank you very much.
For breaking down everything. Thank you for doing good PR.
Thank you.
I want to send a message to Richard Frederick. He said that in 2006, he was the one who caused UWP to win the election.
Okay, I want to comment on that as well, caller. If you
Tell
go ahead, please.
Go back and tell Krabs that story. Because it was the legendary
Sir John Compton's return
of the
was the main factor.
legendary
That's a fact.
Sir John Compton.
Yeah.
Pulled that victory from Kenny Anthony. Richard Frederick had nothing to do with that.
No, I won't agree with you that he had nothing to do with that. Because, Andre, I've always said there's no one reason why you lose, there's no one reason why you win. But the main factor was the return of Sir John. I'm not saying Richard did not make a contribution, but he also had that new phenomenon of a fellow called Guy Joseph in that election. Remember, Guy came in that election, and Guy was one of the shining characters of the campaign of the election. So all of those things contributed to our victory. Not Richard Frederick, who's claiming that he single-handedly made the UWP. That is not true. However, while Sir John was the main factor, caller, to cause us to win, Richard was the main factor that caused us to lose. And he has that foolish argument that how come he won his seat if he didn't cause us to lose because he won his seat. Nonsense. You can win in your constituency, but cause damage to the party in other constituencies, which is exactly what you did.
Sorry, we'll have to end the show. Caller, sorry about that. Sorry. It's already a minute.
Caller, thanks for calling. Yes. It's a pity we have to end. And let me just end by saying we do not need xenophobia in St. Lucia. We cannot have a government that advances those kinds of backward, negative, primitive thinking. And remember, even our greats in St. Lucia had to travel overseas to hone their skills and their talent and to become who they were. That is true of Sir Arthur. That is true of Sir Derek Walcott. That is true of Julian Alfred. That is true of Rick Wayne. But the notorious people can stay right here and destroy your country. We cannot allow that. And that is what Richard Frederick is trying to do. Thank you, and join us once again next week when we'll be back. I don't know if Nancy will be back by next week, but I was happy to have been here today, Andre, and it was a pleasure as always. Thank you, callers and listeners and viewers.
Thank you, Mr. Montoute. Thank you very much. Until next week, Thursday, same time, 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock, for another Meet the Opposition. Well, this is where I come to the end of my shift for today, Thursday, the 6th of February. Thanks for your company. As always, you can join me tomorrow morning, God willing, same time from 5 o'clock for another Wake Up and Live. Now, stand by for the Rev Up Center that's coming up next with Kina and Tony.
Join the United Workers' Party this and every Thursday on Rev Up St. Lucia 97.1 FM for an educational and informative program, Meet the Opposition.